Today we're going to talk about Abeka versus Monarch. Hey everyone, while I have the camera out today and doing some filming of some recipes that you guys have requested, including pumpkin spice sugar-free or low carb, not 100% sugar-free, but it is low carb pumpkin spice cold coffee. Check them out, coming up soon. I wanted to do the sit down video that everybody has requested. A lot of people thought one of two things. One, we instantly went crazy and switched from doing a hardcore using books only curriculum to all digital, or two, we did it because of circumstances in 2020, and neither is really correct. Let's talk about that today. This one is gonna be more of a chatty video. I want to give everybody a heads up and explain what happened. As I was doing first semester grades at the end of the 2019 first semester of 2019-2020 school year, I started evaluating the girls' grades and they were going down. It was an intense curriculum with so much constant review, so much writing, so much book work, yet their grades were going down. Their attention span focusing on their work was going down. So much was going worse for them. And I was like, okay, what is going on? This is a curriculum that's very focused on constant review of math, very focused on a strong phonetic, spelling-based curriculum. Why aren't they learning as much? Then, every year at income tax time, I look ahead to the next school year. The first thing on my priority list every single year at income tax time is school books. So I started looking. I was already used to, with Abeka, they had switched to where like you would have test book, which also required test key. Then they would have a separate book for quizzes, which also required a teacher key. Then they had an activity book, which also required a teacher key. Then you had the actual book work and that teacher key. So you had 8 books for one subject. I was like, okay, it's worth it, it's fine. Then you get into the curriculum and these were not like out of date. I start with my oldest, I would always buy the most up-to-date editions of the books. And I got partway through the curriculum last year and was like, okay, it's worth it to have all these extra books, it's fine, a little more hassle. We bought a separate filing cabinet just for storing teacher keys, test books, all that. It was fine. Then we got to the point where it was like, hey, you need to go to your library and look this up in a physical copy of an encyclopedia. I was like, okay, that seems really old school. Nobody's really doing that anymore. I literally took her to the library the next day and the library was like, nobody carries physical hard copies of encyclopedias anymore. Nobody. Do you want to know why? And so they pull up the library website where there's a link to World Book. Not only is there a link to World Book, there is a World Book for elementary school kids, World Book for middle and high school kids, World Book for college students, and then just in general, World Book. I was like, why did I even need to come to the library to look for a physical hard copy of a book when it's something that would have taken like 5 minutes to look up on a website, even less than that? So my first thing was, okay, this is a good curriculum. This is a good curriculum. It's teaching my kids. They're doing great. And then I started adding up the cost. Right now, so if you don't understand homeschooling, there's accredited and there's unaccredited. Accredited is you're going through an academy and technically that academy is the one teaching your kids. And unaccredited is the parents are teaching. It's also called parent-led and parent-based versus academy. So that's kind of like what but we do unaccredited because I didn't see a point in doing accredited all the way from kindergarten to 8th grade when actually high school is the only point that it matters. And you can graduate with an unaccredited diploma and still be able to go to community college, trade school, whatever. And it was like an extra $2,000 per child. And I was like, I'm not paying $2,000 extra per child just to have a different diploma when they can still have a diploma and still go to trade school or college if they wanted to. But then I started adding up the cost of the books for Abeka, and this was February. I usually start in January, February while schools kick back up, they're doing work, and literally one day while I'm sitting down to do all this, my 7th grader, again, keep in mind, 7th grade, not like college prep high school class, my 7th grade middle schooler had to do 3 whole college ruled pages of vocabulary words. And most of them were not on the test that they were doing this for. I was like, why are they doing this? Why are you spending this much time on vocabulary words? And then like, most of this isn't even on the test. You're telling her to study this. What is the point of this? So she's trying to do that. I'm frustrated. I'm just like, okay, just do it. We'll look over it in a minute. Then I go to look up her books for next year, and it was in the hundreds of dollars for her schoolwork for 8th grade. And I said, there's no way. There's got to be a better option to this. And so I started looking more and more into Abeka. I'm like, I'll give him another chance. Maybe I can just buy some teacher keys secondhand. It'll help cut down on the cost. Literally just for my 8th grader, for just the books, not even just the teacher keys, just the books, it was gonna be double what my other 2 were gonna need for school. I was like, this is ridiculous. Then I started looking even more. They're like, oh, we redid the science curriculum. 2 books. 2 books for science. Then each book had a test book and a quiz book and teacher keys for each of those. So now we were up to over 8 books for one subject. And each one of those books was like $5.95 for the test books and like $20 or $30 something for the kid books. I don't even remember because I actually didn't even go all the way through buying it. I said, there's got to be another way. Literally, you can call it circumstance, provision, whatever you want to call it. A friend of mine at church was like, hey, I'm selling all my Abeka books. I'm not using Abeka anymore. I'm like, okay, tell me why, because I am extremely frustrated with Abeka right now. I said, I'm tired of spending so much on books. The books are outdated, massive amounts of books, so much book work, so much what feels to me like wasted time. I wanted to be hands-on with homeschooling, and none of this was hands-on. It was all read, write, and I hate that. I hate that way of learning. I wanted my kids to have more time for hands-on. And she goes, have you ever heard of Alpha Omega? I said, no. And she said, that's what we're looking at. And she said, so here's the deal. You actually can try Alpha Omega, their Monarch program, which is all online and all digital, for free. I'm like, there's no way. She's like, yeah, you can try it for free for 30 days. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. I said, but how would I know if my kids actually are gonna be, you know, apples and apples with a new curriculum? She's like, well, there's a placement test. I was like, okay, sure. So I go on the website, literally like that. I had all 3 of my kids in placement tests. They finished them in 30 days. And it spaces them out. So it starts them at 2 grades below where they are, and then you step your way up. My kids instantly loved it, even with just the test, because there were some things on the test that, like, I started finding out Abeka never taught. Stuff that my husband and I were like, what? How does my child not know what a negative number is? How does my child not know what a number line is? How do they not know this? How do they not know what a square root is? How do they not know what a squared number is? How do they not know how to go to a website and give the MLA format for that research? Oh yeah, because they still wanted them to use encyclopedias. And it was so... when I first started Abeka or Alpha Omega, I was like, how did I miss all of this? I had somebody tell me, and I had a dear friend sit me down, and he said, look, you were doing the best you could. You were going off the information you were given, and you were doing the absolute best you could. Just because you find a better way later doesn't mean that you were wrong to begin with. And I looked at that advice and I said, okay, I can accept that Abeka is no longer working for us. It's no longer the curriculum that is perfect for our family. And we were honestly, when we looked at it, we were like, I am perfectly fine with my kids doing all of their work virtually, because I feel like we live in a virtual world and they're not going to want you to sit down and do a 4-digit division problem on paper for a job. They want you to learn how to punch that into a calculator. And they don't want you to sit there and know how to do a 4-digit number into a calculator and not know how to bring a negative number to a positive when balancing books. So we looked at it and we're like, okay, let's do it. So we literally just stopped completely with Abeka from that point. And then in April, we actually started Monarch. I started the other 2 on the grades they were on. My youngest, we had actually looked at maybe bumping up a grade. Come to find out that a lot of stuff that Monarch expected her to already know, a lot of it she didn't already know how to do. She didn't know how to type out a report in Monarch and then send it to me. She didn't know how to do any, like, the basic skills that I would consider for like virtual learning and virtual computer use. So we ended up just leaving her in 4th grade and going from there. Basically, that's the basic reason why we decided to switch. We felt Abeka was outdated. We felt like, my husband and I personally, when public school around here started going to virtual, all the parents freaked. They're like, no, our kids need to know how to use books. The reason why I actually love virtual better is that I feel that the information is easier to update on a virtual format and is more up to date. So since we switched from Abeka, some of their life skills have improved. They now know how to do typing. They know how to do research and proper research and reliable websites to use for research. They know how to cite their sources. They have more free time. They have more time for choosing electives. They have more time to do chores, and they have more time to just be kids. The last year that we did A Beka, all of my kids, usually 3 out of 5 days a week, sometimes even all week, were literally doing school from 7 a.m. to bedtime. And I felt like they weren't getting to be kids. Now I feel like my kids are actually getting to be kids. They're getting better content from their schoolwork. They're learning more life skills, and they're having more time to just be. So that was why we ended up switching. It actually had nothing to do with anything going on in 2020 right now. It was literally, we had had enough with outdated, useless information. Not all the information in A Beka was useless, but I felt like some of the book information was useless. So that was our reasons. If you have any more specific questions about like A Beka versus Monarch, anything else that we've noticed, the math was the biggest one for me. There have been maybe some other adjustments. Oh, like for 6th grade science this year, every other lesson, it seemed like for the first month at least, was science experiments, hand-on science experiments, and they still the science kits to go with it. So we were able to do that. That was another big adjustment, was being able to do a lot more hands-on, a lot more fun projects, like when Rebecca for 4th grade was doing animals, instead of like just coloring a worksheet of this animal goes with this, she wanted to do more than just coloring. It was actually build your own animal scrapbook from magazine clippings, which thankfully we had those because I couldn't go pick any up. Build your own scrapbook and classify the animals on their scrapbook pages. She had so much fun with that. So a lot more hands-on, a lot more, like I said, real world. I don't know how better to explain it. To me, this curriculum feels more real world than A Beka did. It feels more like actual learning of things that they need to know versus just dumping information on them. If you have any questions, specific questions about either A Beka or Monarch, let me know in the comments below. Thank you for letting us know that you wanted this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any more suggestions for videos, let us know. We're mostly home right now until maybe the holidays. I don't know. We have no upcoming travel plans because of current things going on. So let us know if you have any suggestions for videos below. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.